What's up guys, Alex here again, Jack Wagon Garage. Got my 94 GSR with me here today at the shop, and gonna do a couple little things to her, not a whole lot. I'm gonna get a test pipe installed on the exhaust. I've got a Tanabe medallion touring exhaust on it right now. A little quiet for my taste. I don't like loud, but I would like to be able to just hear the note of the exhaust, and it's too quiet in the cabin right now. I'm trying to get the sound up a little bit, put a test pipe in it. For all of you that don't know, that means you take it basically goes in place of a factory catalytic converter in the exhaust. Helps the exhaust become a little louder. We'll see how it sounds after that. I'll get some sound clips before and after. Also, if you've seen the suspension lowering video, I have lowered this car, but I think the back sits a little too high compared to the front. I want it to be, pretty even front to back. It's too raked forward right now. So I'm just gonna be going in and to the rear coilovers, lowering them just a tad, try to just even it all out. Make it look just pretty good. Side profile, just make the gap, try to make it pretty even. So just a couple little things today, not doing a whole lot, but that's about it. We'll go ahead and get in the shop and get to it. So what I'm basically gonna be doing is coming in here. I'm gonna drop the bolt here on the control arm to have the control arm hang lower. I'll unbolt the bottom of the coilover, loosen up the locking ring here, and I'm gonna be shortening the coilover just a little bit to kind of drop the back maybe a quarter inch, half an inch or so, just kind of even it out. Got to take the wheels off. Then basically it's just a 14mm bolt here, a 14mm bolt here, and then I have a tool that came with my Skunk 2 coilovers that I can undo this locking ring here, and then basically I just have to twist the bottom of the coilover around to shorten the length of the threads here, and then I'll make the back of the car sit lower, and so I'll start kind of taking stuff apart, and then once I get in here to start lowering it, I'll show you guys what's going on. Alright, so basically what you're going to want to do is, like I said, I got the rear wheel removed. I've got my bolt out of the lower control arm here, my bolt out of the strut here. Well, I mean, it's in, but it's loose. I left it in there, that way I could break the ring loose up here, the locking ring, without the strut moving around, so I left the bolt in to hold it tight. I already broke it loose because I couldn't do it with just one hand and hold the camera, but as you can see, I've already loosened the locking nut. Basically, you're going to want to untwist it enough to where it's just not locking up against the coilover anymore. I'm going to pull my bolt back out of my coilover there, and then basically I'm just going to pull my control arm. If I can do it with one hand, I don't know. Might have to put the camera down and do it with two, possibly. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna have to do. But basically I'm just gonna pull this down so it's out of the coilover, so that way I can rotate the lower body of it here and rotate it. I guess it would be clockwise to make it go higher up on the threads to lower the back of the vehicle. Alright, well, I'm basically done. I got my, like I said, I pulled the control arm down out of my way. Took the coilover, this body here of it. When I had my locking nut on the coilover loosened up, I rotated it clockwise to shorten the amount of threads that were here, which would essentially lower the car more. Got that done. I got all my bolts back in, my bolt here in the end of into the nut bolt, got the one here into the coilover. Same on the other side. I've already done the other side. Got my 2 bolts in. I haven't tightened them yet because when you either replace, or just in my case, since I'm just loosening these up to do something and put it back, but in any case, anything with like a bushing in it, whether it's a bushing your control arm and your toe arms, just anything like that, you want to tighten the bolts when they have load on them. So basically when you put the car on the ground and the weight of the car and the whole suspension is compressed where it sits, that's when you want to tighten the bolts. A lot of the time, if you tighten the bolts with the suspension completely decompressed, like it's up in the lift, there's no pressure on the suspension. Basically, you might end up with squeaking bushings, because then if you tighten them and then lower it, it binds the bushing and it can squeak. So I'm gonna put the wheels back on, lower the car on the ground, and then go through and tighten back up all of my bolts, and we'll see how She looks lowered a little bit. I didn't go a whole lot. I literally only went 1 revolution on the bodies, like just basically rotated it 360 degrees. So it won't lower it much at all. Probably not even that noticeable, especially to the camera, but to me it should look a little lower. I just didn't like the way it sat in the back. It was just a little too high compared to what the front was like. I just want to even it out. But that should be it. I'll get the wheels on, set her down, and we'll see what she looks like. Alright, so the other thing that I did today, besides lowering the back of my vehicle just a little bit, is I went ahead and, I know in previous video I've mentioned how basically, so this thing has a pace setter header. It's a 4 to 2 to 1 header, and it has a I guess it doesn't say Tanabe on there. If you can kind of see there, it says Tanabe. It's the Tanabe Medallion Touring Catback exhaust. I was still running a factory catalytic converter. I like the tone of the Tanabe Medallion, but it is very, very quiet. And while I don't like super loud exhaust, I do want to be able to hear it, and you can't really with the exhaust. It's just very, very quiet. So what I went ahead and did is I have an NVIDIA test pipe. I removed the old catalytic converter. I've got that over here on the ground. That's just an OEM catalytic converter, probably original to the car from '94. I doubt it's ever been changed. But what that can do is basically it can make your exhaust quieter, just because there's like all kinds of material in there that helps with emissions, but it makes your exhaust also quieter. Putting a test pipe in here frees up some flow, kind of just lets the exhaust get out there without being muffled so much from the catalytic converter. Super easy to do. This test pipe had a bung welded for an O2 sensor. It's just in the wrong place for mine, so I went ahead and had another bung welded in the front for where my factory O2 sensor is placed. This is a 94, so it's OBD1 computer, so there's only 1 auction sensor. If you have a 96 and up Integra, you would have 2 auction sensors normally, which you could have 1 there and then 1 there, but I only have 1, so I only need this front one. Basically it's just 2 bolts here, 2 spring bolts. There's bolts with nuts on the other end. There's a donut gasket in between those 2 flanges. It's a straight through design, and then there's 3 bolts in the back, 1 way up at the top, 1 here, and 1 here. You take those off. There's a gasket also between the 2 of those, and take your old cat out, put the new one in, tighten your auction sensor back down, make sure you get it plugged up, tighten your 2 front bolts with the springs, tighten your 3 back bolts, make sure you get the gasket in both places. I'm going to have to, I don't have another gasket on hand, I'm going to order one, but this gasket that's here on the 3 bolts in the back is it's really just not in good condition, so I'm gonna have to go ahead and order one. I'll get it swapped out another time, but for now it'll work just to get this in here, and I'll get it set. I'm gonna start it up. I'll just check for leaks off camera, make sure I don't have any leaks out of any gaskets, and if we're good to go, I'll set the camera up in the back and get some sound clips. I did get some previous sound clips that I'll put in first of it with the factory catalytic converter in, and then I'll put the test pipe in, and then I'll get some sound clips of after the cat's out and the test pipe's in, and we'll see if we can tell a sound difference, see if it's a little louder.